Hi YouTube family, Lisa A. Romano here, the Breakthrough Life Coach, and today I want to discuss, obviously, what I always discuss, codependency and narcissism, and the different kind of stages codependency takes on, and different types of symptoms that we experience when we're codependent. I've gotten a couple of emails lately asking me to help people figure out, are they codependent or are they narcissistic, because they're finding that they're kind of confused, because when they start to learn about codependency and narcissism, they identify and relate so much to being the codependent, but they can't, completely disregard the fact that there are some things that they hear about the narcissist and the types of symptoms like a narcissist shows up with and presents with. They can't completely say, well, I'm never like that. So a lot of people, very interesting, are seeking clarification. And so I'm hoping that this video will help bring some light to what could be a really sticky, freaking muddy topic, because codependency, it's like, in my opinion, it's, I write about this in The Road Back to Me. It's not like, you can't go to the doctor and say, I'm sick, I have codependency, give me medicine and make it go away. Or give me a CAT scan, find it in my body, and take it out. You can't do that with codependency. Codependency is a way of relating to people. So it's like your filter. In my opinion, it's a template. It's a template. It's a crystalline type template that's been, and I'll just tell you quickly what I think it is, in terms of metaphysical explanation, and then I'll get into the psychological explanation. But in my opinion, codependency is created in childhood. Codependency affects us in our emotional being. Our emotions are vibrations, and our vibrations create templates in the subconscious mind. Like a grid, like a template has like all these grids. If you imagine a grid like with all these different lines, in my opinion, the way I look at that is that one line says, I'm not enough. Another line says, don't make people angry. Another line says, don't upset the apple cart. Another line says, ignore the elephant in the room. Another line says, I don't know what I'm talking about. Another line says, my feelings don't matter. Another line says, authorities know better than me. Another line says, fear authority. And so all these impressions that I perceived as a child, when I was powerless to what was happening, when I was truly in my dream state, meaning that I was just allowing all this, I had no other choice, I was a baby. So from zero, especially from 0 to 3, that's when the brain is rapidly creating all these neural associations. And very, very interesting, the brain really doesn't grow. What happens is the neural connections in the brain begin to branch out. So the neurons get fatter, the dendrites get longer, and so what happens in the brain when we're young is that the brain is trying to stretch out. So the left hemisphere is trying to reach out into the right hemisphere. There's a lot of stuff going on in the brain. But think about that. Think about that. People think babies are stupid. Hello. If you have any children at home, younger than 5 or 6, pay attention to what you're saying. Pay attention to what you're saying to your nieces and your nephew and your children. If you're a teacher, pay attention to how you're coming off to these babies, these angelic beings, because their brains are rapidly growing, in the sense that the myelin sheath is trying to get thicker and longer, which helps conduct neurons, electricity from synapse to synapse better, faster, quicker. So there's a rapid expansion in the brain. But think about this. We know that the environment affects brain development. We know that. And so we are supremely ignorant in this country, in this world, if we don't think that the way we are treating babies, our 1-year-olds, has a long-lasting effect on them. we're supremely ignorant if we don't start making that connection. I get it. So I believe that we have these templates, and I believe that what happens is the template is created truly on a crystalline structure. Emotions are vibrations, and vibrations create these specific structures. And now, when you're in the dream state, if you can imagine that, children look up at their realities, and what happens is, until we awaken and we have this transition, and we transcend the dream state, what happens is we're looking up through the template. So if the template is one that's been built to model codependency, meaning my feelings don't matter, I'm afraid to be alone, I need you to validate me, I am who I am in relation to you, so I don't know who I am if I'm not bouncing off of somebody. Like, who the hell am I? I can't be alone. So we're in a dream state, and just like when we're children, we're looking up at our parents or the authorities in our life. When we're in the dream state in self, we're looking up through the template. And what happens is we plug into this energetic grid. And we're like a Sims character, the video game Sims. We are literally like characters plugged into this template. And what are we doing? We're running the grid. So we're running the grid, and the grid is also our attracting point. So now, whatever's on that grid, we're going to attract in our outer experience. It's freaking ridiculous. Doesn't matter who I coach. If you were slapped around when you were 4, and you watched mommy get slapped around by daddy, guaranteed you've had a boyfriend slap you around, or you've married a man who abuses you. Guaranteed. And it's quite extraordinary if that's not the case. And if they're not physically abusive, then they're going to be emotionally abusive. The result will be that you feel exactly like you did when you were a little girl. So it's this energetic grid that's created that manifests this codependency that we are plugged into, which becomes our attracting point. Write this down, dear ones. Write this down. Stop this tape. Rewind, watch it over and write all this stuff down. This is golden nugget information. 500 years from now, this is going to be, everyone's going to know this stuff. But right now, you and I are truly, truly trailblazers on this journey. We are transcending these dark energies where future children will come in completely whole, their light body. But we have to transcend first, and we've got to be the conduit so they can continue to come in. That's metaphysical. That's my metaphysical explanation of why we're going through this process now. So getting back to this template. So we have this energetic template that's activated. It's there. Now, when we get around someone who matches that template, the template starts doing this. Beep, 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 and you like my sound effects? So what's happening is the brain is turning on, and we think, love at first sight. Love at first sight. We don't know that we have this crystalline template that is activated. It is actually truly like a magnet drawing us to exactly what is within us. Because like attracts like, dear ones. So people, I want to get up to the codependency, narcissistic thing, and where do I fall. But first I want people to understand this. This is really, really, really important. People say to me all the time, my coaching clients always ask me, but I'm a really nice person. Like, seriously. Like, I'm a really nice person. How did I marry this narcissistic PhD? Because if you have a PhD, you can't be a narcissist. Bull! Holy crap. Sometimes people who have PhDs hold on to that PhD and they say, I can't be the one who's wrong. I have a PhD, which is a symptom of narcissism. They're egotistical. They're grandiose. They think they're better than everybody else. You owe them something because they're a PhD. I don't care. PhD? I don't care. You could be the biggest banana on God's green earth and have a PhD. Hello. So it means nothing, dear ones. It means nothing. So anyway, so we have these people ask me all the time. So I'm a nice person. How did I marry this horrible narcissist? The thing is, dear one, that it's not about the personalities that are showing up. And although on the surface, you gotta remember that, if you think about a rose bush, a rose bush that's beautiful has a really good root system. A rose bush that's falling apart has a really poor root system. As it is below, so shall it be above. Okay? If it doesn't matter, well, it does matter, but what you see on the surface is really not where it's at. It's what's inside. Very cliche, but it really isn't about, what you're seeing on the outside. It's always going to come down to, what am I vibrating at? What is my base? And I write about this in Quantum Tools to help you heal your life now. And that's why I write the books like the affirmation books to help you fix what's in here so you stop attracting craziness out here. Because you got to fix what's in here and fix what's in here so you can attract better out there. Okay? This is a process. But there's a way out, dear one. Hold on. So, I digress a lot. Please forgive me. But I have all these wonderful ideas I'm trying to pass on to you beautiful people. Because I don't want you to be the underdogs anymore. I want you to be victorious. And I want you to become big beacons of bright light so we can continue to have, full-bodied light bodies coming into our reality. Okay, so, sorry, cracking myself up. So we have a codependent whose base energetic frequency is fear. We have a narcissist, guess what? Their base energetic frequency is fear. Narcissist doesn't want you to leave them. Narcissist doesn't want you to see their true self, or they don't want you to see the flaws in them. So a codependent is afraid to be alone. A codependent is afraid to rock the boat. So what we're not understanding is that the base core emotions, if they're both negative, that is the attracting point. Has nothing to do with somebody who's altruistic and someone who's a real pain in the ass. Nonsense. You've got to figure out, what is your base emotional set point? Do you live in fear? What do you hear your mind saying when you're not conscious? Just pay attention to the ideas that float in your head. How do you react when you stub your toe? How do you react when it rains? How do you react when there's an old lady trying to cross the street? Are you nasty? Are you like, oh my God, this old biatch, hurry up, I'm sad. Is that you? Because if that's you, you got some work to do. If you find yourself, being okay with old people crossing the street, when you find yourself okay that people cut you off in traffic, when you find yourself okay when people cancel on you and you're not throwing a little hissy fit, then you know that your base core emotion has elevated a little bit. So just a couple of things I want you to look out for. Now, Ross Rosenberg likes to, or has, broken codependency down into two categories, which I think is rather clever. There's the active codependent, according to him, and then there's the passive codependent. So I get that, and I think that's a really great way for the mind to figure out okay, where do I fit in this? So I'm going to give you my opinion on the whole deal. I know for sure I played both roles. When I was a little child, I was the passive codependent. I was very quiet, and I needed very much to be validated, and when I wasn't, I felt very wounded, and I would retreat into myself. I would ride my bike by myself. I would write stories in my room. I would fantasize like crazy about being rescued. I was a love addict at 7, I swear to God. And it looked like, and I get it. I was lonely at 7, and I was desperate to be rescued, but what I was really, really in need of was to be loved. I wasn't addicted with falling in love. I was completely addicted to the idea of being loved, because I didn't feel loved, and when you don't feel loved, your brain goes to, oh, the answer is fairy tale love. No, we don't really want a fairy tale. What we really want is to experience love, the vibration of love, to know that we are loved, to know that we are accepted, to know that we're enough. Below the love addict, but below all the spiel, the Cinderella crap and Snow White crap, which is a bunch of malarkey. Can't stand those stories. But the reality is what we're really, really looking for is to be loved and to feel like our primal instinct has been satisfied. We belong. So when we become adults and we've suffered like for so many years, like when you're codependent and you're passive, you get kicked around a lot. When I first got married, and I know a lot of you relate to this, when I first got married, I was the good little girl, the good little wife. I did everything perfectly. After a bunch of years of getting ignored and like not having my needs met and like having every time I opened my mouth getting shot down, I started getting pissed. I started getting really bitchy. And it was I used to dream that he wouldn't come home. And then I'd feel guilty that I prayed that he wouldn't come home. Like, please get hit. It sounds terrible, but this is what we do. Maybe he won't come home. Maybe something will happen to him at work. It's awful because why? Because why? Because when you are a true codependent, you are miserable, but you do nothing to leave the relationship. You're afraid to leave it. So the only way that you think you can escape it is if he drops dead or if he has an affair. Some of us, I've had clients who said they wish that their passive aggressive husband would have an affair. It would get them off the hook. That is an earmark of codependency. So what this video is all about is to help you guys understand that when you're codependent, you can swing left to right and back to left and back to right again. And so I have found that the longer you're in, let's say relationship A, and the more you try to get seen, and the more you drive yourself crazy and work your fingers to the bone to feel seen, the more resentment builds up. It's like gas that's building up, in this tube. And then it doesn't, and then you're tired, and then now his whole family wants you to do stuff. And now you're addicted to saying, okay, yes, and you hate people because you're saying yes and you mean no. And so it takes someone to scratch the surface and you're exploding. So now you look like a raging lunatic. Now you completely shut down. You're telling everybody to go F themselves, leave me the F alone, and it works. If you're living with someone who sees that you've exploded, he backs off for a while. He leaves you alone for a few days. And as soon as you blow off all this steam and things start to settle down, and he's walking around, now you've got him walking around on eggshells now, but he's just waiting for the pendulum to go back into its natural swing. The minute you have your strength back, you've got a couple of good nights sleep, you're starting to feel better, and he's watching, and he's observing. Okay, she's back. She's making my breakfast. She's buying my underwear. She's leaving my shoes by the front door. She's asking me what I want for dinner. She's back. As soon as you're back to full capacity, the dynamic starts again. And what will happen is you'll seesaw back into the passive codependent for a time, and then it'll be just a matter of time before you start to explode again. And so then you'll explode, and then you will present with symptoms of a narcissist. Now, you're not a narcissist. You're not a narcissist. It's still codependency. Your agenda is always to feel seen, to maintain the relationship, even when you're unhappy, because you don't have boundaries. And you don't have boundaries because of a number of reasons, like I've talked about on this channel many, many times. You don't have data for boundaries. Remember, when you were a little kid, you didn't matter. Your feelings didn't matter. So when you fell off the bike and you cried, nobody cared. So it's not in your template like, oh, my feelings matter. Oh, people are supposed to be nice to me. So now, I've raised my children where their pain matters. And so when they get hurt, they have this construct, this data in their head that says, when I fall, the people that are in my life should ask me how I'm doing. They should care. And so when they're around friends or boyfriends or girlfriends and they express an emotion and their boyfriends or girlfriends don't mimic that back or don't mirror it back and say, hey, babe, you all right? My children know there's something up with that. Like, if you're with somebody and they're saying that they care about you, but they're not acting like they care about you, that's a no good. That's a no good. So I've taught my children, they have that data in their brains. But when you're codependent, and you have this template in your brain, and you're in a dream state, and you're living through the template, plugged into the template, like a robot. You don't even realize it. It's like the Matrix, not kidding. When you're living out the program, you're living out the data from childhood. And so if mommy and daddy ignored you, guess what? They taught you to ignore you. And that's why I do what I do, because I understand what it feels like to grow up and believe, truly, truly believe that you're unworthy. And I know what it feels like to attract people into my life who were mirrors to that were mirrors to that reality, the reality that the template that I held within myself, that I was looking up through, that I didn't know was an illusion. So I know what it feels like to be so afraid to make a decision. I know what it feels like to attract a narcissist into your life and then to be so spellbound and be afraid of what? Like when I look back, it's many years later now, but when I look back to how terrified I was to admit that I was unhappy. If you're severely codependent, you think that you need permission to say, I'm not happy. You don't, dear one. You don't. It's not your fault. It's not part of your data. Remember, your brain is like a shed. And your brain can only play with the tools that are in the shed. And so if there's no data in your brain for I matter, I have nothing to be afraid of. I'm supposed to be tuning into self and trusting guidance and acknowledging when I'm not happy and verbalizing that with my throat chakra. I'm just supposed to be living whatever's going on in my experience, whatever I'm feeling internally, I'm supposed to embody that. So when I'm happy, I'm supposed to be happy. When you live with a narcissist, the happier you are, the more pissed they are. And then their job, remember, a narcissist's job, it's all about energy. It's all about frequency. I don't care what people say, he wants to bring me down. I think that this world is going to make a lot more sense when people start speaking in 5D terms, meaning that he was trying to hijack my vibrational frequency. I was high flying. The cells in my being were vibrating at a high frequency. I was resonating with joy. I was resonating with bliss. I was so happy. I was resonating, at a level of happy. Like the cells in my being were doing a happy dance. And the minute I turned to look at my husband, I could see all over his face. He was unhappy that I was happy. And his agenda was to hijack my frequency. Now, dear ones, here's the thing. Nobody can really hijack your frequency unless you give them permission. The goal is to, no matter what's going on in your experience, that you learn to hold on to your frequency. So we want to learn how to resonate higher and higher and higher and bring our frequency up. Music, dance, funny YouTube videos. I did that for a while because I forgot what it was like to belly laugh. So I remember 5 a.m. I would come downstairs and I would actually scour the internet for the most ridiculous, stupid prank videos. But I'll tell you what, it worked because it was the way that I took control of my own frequency. I mean, there's some funny stuff on YouTube. And I would deliberately give myself like 15 minutes of happy time. It was like happy time, 15 minutes, 5 a.m. from 5 to 5:15. I'm going to see how deep I could belly laugh, how much I could cry. And so I was trying to teach myself how to connect with those vibrations again. Very, very important. This is truly quantum alchemy. Dear ones, it has been my pleasure to come into your hearts and your minds and to be a part of your vibrational path towards total emotional freedom. And I am here to tell you that total healing is possible. My life gets better and better and better because I get better and better at mastering my vibrational frequency. And when I feel myself coming off center, so you have to find your center. And I've done that through meditation, guided YouTube meditations. I have done that through journaling about the way I feel, and then seeing if I can sit with that feeling and allowing that feeling to come up through me and come through my crown chakra like a puff of smoke. I've done it in lots of ways. That's what I teach in on my coaching classes, my group coaching classes, and my teleclasses, my live seminars, and my books. And so you have to find your center, and then you have to be very, very protective, like a ninja turtle. Like, that this is my frequency. And so when you're around people, if you feel like danger, 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 turn away. The Bible says turn the cheek, walk away. It's your frequency, and no one has the right to hijack it. Dear ones, thank you so much for allowing me into your hearts today. I love to hear from you. You can reach me at lisaaRomano@gmail or healingselfesteem.com. My latest book is out, Love and the Self-Affirmations, Healing Childhood Brainwashing. It's on Amazon and available through Barnes & Noble. Will be available through Kindle very, very soon. I don't know what's up with that. They're a little late on the draw, but everything's fine. Everything's working out fine. It's just a matter of time. I'm going on the road in early November, and I will be in New York on Long Island, I think at the Garden City Hotel, November 14th, for an intimate breakfast. So it will be a Q&A, and only a small handful of people will be allowed to participate. Breakfast is included. There will be a Q&A, and also I will be teaching a 2-hour class. And it'll be a 2-hour class. It'll be breakfast, a 2-hour class, and then it will be an hour of personal one-to-one Q&A questions. So I'm really looking forward to having you join me on that. I look forward to hearing from you, dear ones. Namaste in love and light. Listen, listen, listen. You really are enough.